Well, it'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, for the opportunity to interact with each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively, we thank you for this gift you are giving to us. Let us begin this transmission with the title, 30 Days of Disclosure. Now, we have talked about recently the idea that there is a protocol list of things that are done when we begin to interact with a new civilization. And we have indicated all the different steps, stages, phases of this, and indicated approximately where you are on this list in terms of what phase is coming up next. So right now, what we are about to suggest as an experiment is part of these protocols, part of accelerating the idea of open contact, and as with many of the protocols on the list, it will involve us observing what it is you do with this and noticing how what you choose to do changes the energy, accelerates the energy. So this experiment is not just about what effect it might have on others, but what effect it has within you, including your willingness to participate in it. So let us begin by asking this question. How many of you would prefer to have disclosure of ET information? So not that many then. All right. Are you willing to help bring this about in a more accelerated way? All right. Up to you. This is not something that you are forced to do, not something that you should do, not something that you have to do, but it will be fun and it will be simple. But I will let you know that if you are willing to commit to doing this, it will make a big difference. So, here we go. You may even wish, if you have access to it, to write down what we're about to say. You don't have to. You'll be able to understand it simply later. It can be repeated easily by anyone who has written it down. You can share this. Are you ready? Who is not ready? Oh, all right. Are you ready now? All right. So, wherever it is that is easiest for you to acquire them, they do not have to be fancy. They can be very, very inexpensive. It doesn't matter. Allow yourself to purchase 90 postcards. 90 postcards. Very simple. 2 sides, place for one of your stamps, place for the address it's going to on one side, place for you to write something on the other side. Very simple. Again, nothing fancy. Anything that can be delivered by your mail service is fine. But 90 postcards. Now, on one side where the address goes, you're going to write 3 lines. The first line will say, "The President of the United States." The second line will say, "The White House." And the third line will say, "Washington, D.C." No return address is necessary. None whatsoever. Now, flip it over on the other side. You will write also 3 lines. The first line will be UFO disclosure The second line will be by 2020. And the third line will be, we'll get our vote. So in total, it will say UFO disclosure by 2020 will get our vote. Now, you have coming up 3 months before the end of your year, October, November, December. Put stamps on your postcards, and beginning on October 1st, which will also coincide with other experiments going on by other people regarding disclosure around your planet, stick it in the mail. 1 postcard each day for 30 days in October. Each day, 1 postcard. Mail it off beginning on the 1st. Doesn't matter if the month has more days than 30. Just do it 30 days in a row. Doesn't matter if there is a holiday or anything like that where the mail may not be working. Just put it out there each day for 30 days in October. Then, on the 1st of November, once again, mail out the beginning of the next 30 on the 1st and for 30 days. 1 each day, go and mail it. 1 postcard a day. And on the beginning of December for 30 days. 3 times 30, 90 postcards, 1 each day for 30 days in a row in October, 30 days in a row in November, 30 days in a row in December. Sacred day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you. Let us continue this transmission in the following way. Allow us to continue the idea a little bit of the nexus point and the acceleration going on for you now on Earth, for us, on Esasani, and for the Sirius civilization. The idea also, as we have already described, that these 3 different frequencies are operating at different rates. You in a 5-year span, us in a 6-month span, Sirius in a 2-week span, roughly speaking. But all linked up, all lined up at this nexus point, the crossing of the threshold that you relate to as your winter solstice, your December 21st. The idea, thus, then, that we would like to continue a little bit further with this idea before we get into interactions with questions is this. We recognize now that many individuals have been talking about the idea of your year of 2012 and recognizing the end of one cycle and the beginning of another cycle and the crossing of the threshold point being that winter solstice date of December 21st. At the same time, many people have also expressed an idea that for some reason, exactly on that date, everything is going to happen all at once. The reason that this is happening is that because as you become more sensitive to higher frequency energies, you start to be able to realize, to start to sense, to realize these faster frequencies on higher dimensional planes that we have been talking about. Our civilization, the Sirius civilization, other dimensions, operate on much higher frequencies. Things happen much more quickly there. And because you are now tapping into those energies, you have assumed that the same rate you're picking up on, that these changes will occur for other civilizations, will occur for you in the same way. But that's not so. You have spread it out over a certain period of time because you are experiencing yourself as a physical reality. You're experiencing the idea of time and space. You're experiencing the idea of inertia. And thus then, you want to create that buffer. Yes, of course, you will accelerate and are accelerating.
But you will do it within a framework, within a window, within an average acceleration rate that is relevant for the reality experience you are having. Were you to truly experience this crossing of the threshold at a rate that is a higher acceleration than is relevant for your reality, you wouldn't necessarily have as much fun. Let us give you an analogy. In the channel's hand now, we hold air. The idea being similar, shall we say, to the idea of the very rarefied high frequency of the Sirius energy. Well, we can move the hands very rapidly, and the air in the hands isn't going to really feel much of a disturbance at all. Because it is so fluid, so flexible, so malleable, at such a higher frequency rate than the idea of denser matter. Nania, would you please take a little bit of the water at the channel side and pour a little bit into the palms of the channel's hands? Sufficient. The idea thus then, from our point of view, from the Essassani point of view, is that we are a little denser than the Sirius energy. We cannot necessarily move quite as fast as they do, but we can move a little bit faster than you, and the water will not necessarily slosh everywhere or slosh out. But of course, if we moved as fast as them, it would go everywhere. Thus then, we don't move that fast. Nania, would you please take the stack of quarters and place it on the channel's palm as a stack? Oh, thank you. This is your reality, and it is even denser. So the idea is that you need to move at a slower rate to allow the stack to maintain its cohesiveness. If you move even a little bit farther, a little bit faster, the stack will collapse. And of course, if you moved at the rate of Sirius, everywhere. The idea thus then is that you move at a rate that is relevant to your reality. And you allow yourself thus then to have the buffer, the smoothness of transition that is required. Otherwise, as you say in your language, property values would rapidly depreciate. So it is relevant to understand that even as you are accelerating, you're accelerating within your own framework, within your own realm, in a way that's relevant for you. Even though you may be perceiving higher frequency rates of other domains, other realities, other dimensions, and other beings, that isn't necessarily relevant to your reality. Thus, then, the misunderstanding that as you tap into those higher frequencies, that everything happening all at once is relevant for you, and it's not. You will spread it out in a way that makes sense, in a way you can assimilate it, in a way you can get used to it, in a way you can get comfortable. This doesn't mean there won't be certain jarring things that do happen in your reality. We understand that you have those from time to time, such as your quakes and your volcanoes and your tsunamis and other kinds of sociological or political upheavals and so on and so forth. And some of these may still occur. The idea, however, is that even when they occur in your reality, as jarring as they may seem to many of you, the idea is that you are now doing them in a way that you can recover, recuperate, adjust, adapt, realign yourselves, think differently about how you position your society relative to these kinds of experiences, and you smooth the whole experience out, and you allow yourself in that sense to let it spread across your culture in a variety of ways that give each and every one of you an opportunity to relate to these kinds of experiences, these kinds of shifts, in a way that makes the best sense for you. So, allow yourself to relax into whatever rate is the rate that your reality is going. You don't need to be impatient and think that things have to rush as fast as our reality, rush as fast as the Sirius energy, rush as fast as all the other vibrations you may be picking up on, becoming more sensitive to as an antenna, becoming more sensitive to higher frequency energies. Learn to interpret what is relevant for your reality even as you accelerate. The idea now also, as we have said, is that in our crossing, Our vibrational name in our ancient language, being that it was Ethethani, will shift to Shakani. We have in our ancient language referred to you, Earth, as Enani, which in our ancient language means the ancestors. Now, after the shift, we will be referring to you vibrationally as Enanika, which is the ancestor spirits, which acknowledges your higher frequency, and that you are becoming more holistic and functioning in a more balanced way between the physical mind and the higher mind. Thus then, Inanika is what you are becoming to us. The Sirius energy, which has heretofore been labeled by us as Siskine, shall simply be recognized in our language as Os. And these are the three representations in our ancient language of the difference in frequency and the difference in vibration. As we thus then go through this transformation together, bolstering each other, holding each other's hands, as it were, going through this gateway, through this mirror, through this looking glass, together as friends, as family, as companions, we simply always will take the opportunity to remind you that you are always encountering in a variety of ways reflections of yourself in that looking glass. And that even as you often encounter the concept of other beings, pay attention to the fact that what you are also at the same time encountering are other versions of yourself in other realities. Interacting with yourself, helping yourself up the ladder, as you say, pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. Do you even have bootstraps anymore? It might be a little bit outdated. Nevertheless, you understand the concept. You are helping yourself even as you are being helped. It is always a two-way street, and you are helping others as well by your willingness to be more of who you are and your willingness to go with the flow of that acceleration in whatever way is truly relevant for you. There may be differences, slight differences in acceleration within the overall bubble reality of Earth. That's all well and good. But you will strike an average for those that are willing to expand, those that are willing to be more of their true selves. There will be an overall average, and some will go a little bit slower and some will go a little bit faster, and that's all well and good. Whatever is relevant for you, whatever is workable for you as an individual and as a collective, remember, as we also recently discussed, it isn't this or that, it's this and that. And even beyond the concept of this and that, it's the recognition that this is that. It's all one, expressing itself in all the ways that it can. And this is the essence and the crux of this transformational age, is that you understand that everything and everyone you interact with, while autonomous unto themselves, and we're not taking anything away from that autonomy, nevertheless, in your reality, your individual reality, you can only experience the versions of everything you agree to create, so that you can experience them made out of your own consciousness, your own energy, your own reflections. So even as you interact with others, you are interacting with yourselves. Always remember the reflection is there for everyone, and that the purest form of relationship is to be the mirrors of reflection for each other that allow each other to become aware of who you truly are and see yourselves much more clearly in that looking glass, in that reflection. In return, thus, then, for allowing us to create this demonstration for you of the way to harmonize the different frequencies by allowing what is relevant to be what you experience. And if you wish, of course, now in the, shall we say, spirit of this acceleration and in the spirit of the demonstration we gave you, if you wish, of course, to change your familiar song, pennies from heaven, to quarters or dollars or whatever you wish, by all means, allow your imagination to be your guide as an expression of abundance, of course, money not being the only one. But allow it to expand in all ways that your imagination so desires, and know that it is not about becoming abundant, it is about becoming aware that you are already abundant, and that you have everything you need. It's just that you may not see it quite yet. But that's all right. Timing is all that matters, is all that's relevant. Allow it to unfold in the way that is natural for you. For each and every one of you is a unique facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation. And by only being your true facet, your true shape, do you thus actually support the whole. Trying to be something you're not does not support the whole idea in a harmonious way. And it is exceedingly exhausting for you to be something you are not, to resist the natural self. Tires you out, wears you down. If you're tired of it, stop being tired. Allow yourselves to flow in an effortless, relaxing way, and know that just by being who you truly are, you will actually be doing the best you can possibly do to support the whole picture, which can then in turn allow you to experience the support that it's giving you. Not that it ever doesn't give you that support, but this is all about becoming aware of the support that you're already getting. Because remember, even when you don't believe you're being supported in the belief you're not being supported. So you're always being supported. It's up to you now to decide whether you wish to be supported in a way that you don't prefer or in a way that you do. It's up to you. Completely, utterly, totally, absolutely up to you. Nothing in creation will contradict the choice you prefer to make, because there is nothing in creation that can do that. Nothing whatsoever. In return, thus then, for the gift you are giving us of allowing us to experience this interaction with each and every one of you, and all of you together, I ask, in what way may we now be of service to you with questions and answers, if you wish.
All right, we'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you. Let us begin this transmission in the following way. We remind you that this has been titled Stepping from the Shadows. We have discussed from time to time the idea of how belief systems are structured in a manner that allows them to perpetuate themselves, reinforce themselves, so that what it is that you believe in can be experienced as a seemingly real reality. If belief systems did not reinforce themselves, you would be able to see right through the smoke and mirrors of the illusion of physical reality. So that structure that reinforces it allows you to have this experience and consider it to be real. Now, we have talked about several different ways of getting in touch with what you might call negative beliefs, and learning to let them go so that you can transform your energy into a more positive direction. And today we offer another suggestion for a way to explore how to do this, how to allow this kind of transformation to take place in a new and different way. So for the moment, I will ask each and every one of you that cares to participate to simply remember a time. It doesn't have to be much. Even just a little bit will be fine, but simply remember a time when you were afraid. Now, I don't necessarily mean I'm afraid of getting hit by a car, but that can be used to some degree. We mean the idea of the fear that holds you back from being yourself, from really acting on your passion, from really following your truth. That sensation you get in the pit of your stomach when you know that you would really prefer to move in a certain direction, but you find that you are afraid that something negative will happen if you do. That sort of idea. Anything like that. That sort of timidity. That sort of trepidation. That sort of uncertainty. That sort of feeling that there is no confidence within you to move forward. The thing that gnaws at you. The thing that you keep choosing to do that wears you out and exhausts you because you're not willing to allow the energy to flow. That sensation. As you allow yourself in this moment to remember such times when that may have cropped up in your life, and know that there may be times ahead where it may crop up again, which is fine, allow yourself
to really tap into that sensation, that feeling, that physical feeling of what fear feels like, that type of fear in your body, where it settles, where it focuses, how the sensation may change but still remain representative, symbolic of a fear. Get in touch with that feeling. The point here now is to actually focus on the physical sensation that accompanies the emotion. Not so much the idea of the emotional side of the feeling, but the true physical sensation side of the feeling, of experiencing fear, hesitation, trepidation in that sense, uncertainty, facing the unknown, worried, as you would say, that you might be judged. Those kinds of ideas. Feel that sensation in your body right now, to the best that you can right now. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just something to work with so that you can understand this particular little technique, this permission slip that we give you today. So if you have a sense at all of what that sensation feels like in your body, that you are remembering now how that felt, allow yourself to just feel the underlying energy of that fear sensation. Just the actual energy itself. There's a lot of power there. When you feel fear, if you can, allow yourself to disconnect from the reason the fear is there and just feel the sensation itself for its own sake. You can begin to really realize how much energy there is flowing through you, being directed to that purpose of experiencing that fear. So just let go of the idea behind the fear and just feel the power itself, the energy flowing itself that is behind that sensation. Because it is very powerful as an energy. It is very clear as a sensation of energy. As you allow yourself to divorce yourself from the idea that generates that energy to be experienced in the manner you would call emotional fear, just becoming neutral about it, observant about it, just being energy itself, you can begin to tap into the fact of how powerful it is. And if you begin to just focus on the power of that energy, divorced from the concept of fear, you can allow yourself to begin to realize how powerful you are, what kind of energy courses through you, what kind of energy is manifest when you buy into a particular belief. Just allow yourself now to let that happen, let that shift happen within you, and just have the neutral sensation of the power, the energy. And it doesn't really mean anything anymore. It is not labeled as anything anymore. It is just the raw sensation of the power behind the emotion. The more you do this, the more you, in any moment when you may feel fear crop up, the more you allow yourself to remind yourself that it is just your energy being filtered through negative belief systems, and you begin to focus just on the sensation itself, the physical sensation and the energy and power behind it, becoming fascinated by that sensation of power, of energy. The more you do this, the more you practice making that shift, the more you can more easily neutralize the emotional component. Now again, this doesn't mean you ignore it. It doesn't mean you don't own it. This is just a technique after you have acknowledged that it's there. You're not trying to squash it. You're not running from it. You've acknowledged that it's there. You've owned it. You've accepted that it's there, that it has come up in this sort of negative emotional way. But then give yourself that moment to breathe. Give yourself that moment to just get in touch with that physical sensation within you and begin to divorce yourself from the emotional component, from any reason that's attached to why that's happening. And just sit in that sensation itself, in the sensation of energy, the sensation of power. Just neutrally feel it, just neutrally experience it. Then begin to realize this is the same energy and the same power that is behind any positive sensation, any positive emotion that you may have, any positive belief that you may experience. It is exactly the same energy. It's just that when you filter it through negative beliefs, you experience it as fear. When you filter it through positive beliefs, you experience it as joy. So just get in touch with the power of the energy itself, neutrally. Just let that be the only reason that you're having that experience for that moment. And just breathe into it. And just revel in it. Let it flow through you. Let the power neutrally just move through you. Feel the energy coursing through your nerves, through your veins, through the cells of your body. Let it expand. Let it disperse throughout the totality of your being. Let it expand from that tight little knot of energy in a particular place, and let it soften and expand just as energy with no meaning behind it whatsoever. Just feel that energy, feel that power, and then know that because it is now devoid of meaning, because it is now neutral energy, you can allow it to transform into something positive. You can now give yourself a holding pattern with that energy. You can now begin to explore what kind of belief systems you would prefer to have instead of the ones that generated the fear feeling. And while that energy is coursing through you, it can help guide you. It can help move you into the state of being that will allow you to truly find the preferred belief system and allow that energy to begin to infuse into that preferred belief system, that preferred definition within you. And thus you can, by extracting that sensation, extracting that neutral energy from the fearful emotion, and allowing yourself to diffuse it, and then allowing yourself to guide it into a different belief, you can take the time, you can give yourself a kind of a limbo moment where you're feeling the pulsing of that energy, and it's just soothing you. It's just kind of like massaging you. It's just kind of like expressing itself through you and allowing your cells to relax, allowing your nerves to relax into it, as if you are stepping into a warm pool of water. And give yourself the time to explore the ideas and the definitions you would prefer that energy be behind. You would prefer that energy give life to. It gives you time to make that transition by neutralizing it in this way, by just getting in touch with that physical sensation and divorcing any meaning, any idea that is connected to it. Just let it be the energy. Let it be the power within you. And then you will have the easy sensation of knowing how to flow it to what it is you prefer to flow it into. And you will feel that transformation, and you will feel that transition happen within your body, within your cells, within your nerves, within your blood, within every aspect of your being. Does this make sense? All right. Practice this whenever you wish, whenever something comes up, as you go on your journey of acting on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence on the outcome. By following that formula, you know, as we have delineated, that sometimes one of the tools within the kit of excitement is that reflective mirror that will bring to your attention something that might be within you as a belief system or a definition that might be out of alignment with that excitement. And therefore, please remember, first and foremost, that by acting on your excitement and having that reflective mirror remind you of something that is not your excitement, that discovering something that's not your excitement is also part of your excitement. Then that helps you remain in that state. And you can work with this energy in a much more powerful, much more profound, much more precise way. Does that make sense? All right. Remember, it's not about what happens. It's about what you do with what happens. That's what matters. Make sense? All right. We thank you for allowing us to share this little technique. Practice it. Get it to work. Use your imagination. That's all right. If your imagination decides to alter it a little bit because it works better for you that way, then allow your imagination to do so. Remember, each and every one of you is unique. You will always do it slightly different than anyone else. And that's exactly the way it needs to be, because it needs to be designed and it needs to be engineered for you specifically. So we give you the basic format. It's up to you to design it in whatever way works best for you. At this time, then, we would like to express our deep appreciation and our deep gratitude for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance that you give us and the gift you give us of being allowed to experience each and every one of you. In return for that gift, we ask you now, how may we be of service to you? Please begin with your questions, comments, dialogues, if you wish.
All right, I'll say good day to you. This day of your time, how are you all? All right. We thank you once again for the co-creation of this interaction. And we will begin this transmission with the idea called Children of the Future, which is you. And this is what we mean by this idea. Most people on your planet at this time think of themselves as the product of what has happened to them in the past. And as we have discussed, of course, many times, you're actually creating the experience of your past from the present. As you define yourself in the moment, of course, you create a different past that makes linear sense, space-time sense, for the person that you have changed yourself to be in the moment, creating a past that makes sense in terms of what you would have to have been in order to become who you are. And you change this many times in many ways over the course of your lifetime, so that at any given moment, you may not know that a few moments ago you would have remembered a completely different past. Because when you create a new past, you generally do so to allow it to make sense as if it's been the past you've always had. So you don't have to think about it. It simply exists then, comes into being then to support the person you say you are now. And you've done this over and over again. Not only individually, but even collectively. As we reminded you at one particular point when we were discussing this topic previously, you have had many different collective timeline pasts as an entire society, even as an entire civilization. The example we gave before is the idea that even though at this point most of you would say that your President Kennedy was assassinated in your year of 1963, it actually used to be true that he didn't die until 1985. But the idea is there were repercussions from that particular reality that collectively you did not prefer. So you changed things to allow there to be a different history where what had happened when he lived until 1985 would not happen. Therefore, this happens all the time, though most of you will not remember the 1985 history at this point. Now, we understand that we have explained that it is really your present that creates the past, but we're going to use in the following example for this subject, for this topic at this time, the linear idea, since you are so used to using it. But we're going to help you use it in a different way. You are very used to the idea, as we said, of thinking that your past supports who you are now in the present. But what we are asking you to do is to start to shift so that it's not so much that you inform who you are now by who you've been, but inform who you are now by who you will become, your future selves. It is now time to cross the threshold to start defining who you are now by who you will be. So the idea is similar to what you are experiencing here with us, because again, colloquially speaking, euphemistically speaking, metaphorically speaking, I am the channel's future self. We exist simultaneously, of course. But from your space-time perspective, I exist in a reality that you relate to as the idea of the future. And yet you can see that by the agreement that we have made, by the expression of this channeling and this communication, I, as the so-called future self of the channel sitting before you, over time, rub off on him, inform him of how he can become more his version of me in his own reality, so that he begins to live a life not informed by the past, but informed by the future. All of you have the capacity to do this. And it's an easy thing to do in using your imagination. Now again, following the rule that it's not about insistence, but just as an imagination exercise that can help create a shift in your vibration, it's okay to use your imagination to start imagining versions of your future self, not only in the idea of a connection you may have to another being in another civilization, in another dimension, in another reality, on a spirit level, what have you, but also the idea of the future self that you can allow yourself to become while on earth, mirroring that idea of the future self that you are connecting to elsewhere in the same way that the channel connects to us. So using your imagination, you can begin to paint a picture. You can start with the idea of a future self that is similar to the idea of the kind of future self I am to the channel. You can imagine a counterpart, another version, another extension of the same oversoul that you are, living a life on another planet and another reality that is more representative of the ideal situation that you prefer in your own world. You can begin that way. And as you begin to form a connection in that imagination and play that story out of what that life may be like, and allow it to become more and more solid, more and more real, again, without the insistence that it has to be, quote unquote, accurate, you can begin to entrain the vibration of your body now to begin to accept the state of being that is representative of that idealized future self that you prefer to be. And as you play out daily scenarios of that version of you, you will start at a certain point, when you become used to it, when you practice it, start to feel yourself taking on some of those qualities. You will start to mirror and mimic the way you see that being functioning in its reality. And that will start to rub off and start to inform your present experience on earth. You will start to see that you will do things a little bit differently. You will start to think a little bit differently. You will start to see things from a different perspective that is more representative of that future self. And bit by bit, as you build that relation and build that connection and strengthen that state of being and make it more real for yourself as a real reality, you will begin to feel that energy within yourself. You will begin to relate to the idea a little bit more than you have related to the idea that your past informs you, that your past has made you what you are. You will start to leave that behind and start to realize that it is your future history that now begins to inform you. And you will start to behave in that way and feel in that way. And start, as we said, to do things that are a little bit more representative of who you can become on earth as your version of that future self. Just as the channel is becoming more his version of us. That will create you to be a child of the future, coming from the future to your present, in the same way that you have for so long come from the past in your mind, in your energy, into the present. Now it's time to tip that scale to the other side and allow you to come from, allow the information to come from the future to you. And let it be real, because it is real. It is a real reality. You just have to get used to it in the same way you're used to thinking of yourself as being a product of the past. You are now becoming a product of the future. Do you understand? All right. Now, we will help crystallize this a little bit more strongly a little later in the transmission during your holotope meditation. But for now, we simply wish to lay out this idea so that you can begin to let it sink in that this is a different perspective, and allow yourself to begin to really be willing to let go of the idea that you are formed from the past and start at least considering and entertaining the concept that you're actually informed from the future instead. Yes? So then, at this timing, we thank you once again for the gift you are giving to us in allowing us to interact with each and every one of you. And we ask you now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Under the sacred deity of this day of your time, how are you all? All right, thank you. Once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission this day of your time. This transmission has been titled The People's Choice to allow us to explore new ideas, new topics that we have not either explored before at all with you or have not gone into great depth with. So, we can begin by allowing the vote to happen once the topics are read, Nania. Now, this will be by a show of hands. First, the 3 topics will be read, then read again one at a time with a show of hands to decide which one you shall vote shall be the topic. This will be a popular vote, not an electoral college vote. So, a little political humor for your planet. Please begin, Nania, with reading the topics that are available to vote on.
So,
Number 1.
number 1 is the spectrum of fear. So this is all about the idea of the very different types of fear that you can experience on this planet and how to respond to them. Number 2 is artificial intelligence and how we're evolving in that direction in terms of understanding how to integrate with it and how to use it. And so a deeper exploration of our relationship to it and how that's going to change our lives as we expand as a civilization.
And number 3.
Number 3 is understanding grief. The idea that when we have loss through death or other reasons, we go through a lot of different stages. We have a lot of different experiences with it. It's a very powerful thing that you go through here on Earth. So Bashar will be explaining, if we choose that one, he'll be explaining how to understand that, how to shorten it, how to shift it, many different aspects of grief.
All right, so the spectrum of fear, artificial intelligence, and discussions about grief. So read them off one at a time. Get a show of hands.
Okay, here we go. Spectrum of fear. All right, let's try it this way. Who doesn't want spectrum of fear? Okay, maybe about 10 people don't want it. So, okay. The next one is artificial intelligence. 6, 7, 8, 9. Still about 10 on that one. And finally, understanding grief. Just a few.
All right. So you have your vote?
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming in terms of this audience about the spectrum of fear.
Yes, we thought it might be.
I'm scared.
That's somewhere on the spectrum. Now, before we go deeply into it, if you, those who attended last night's transmission, remember we were talking about the idea of sensing and predicting probabilities that exist at the time the prediction is made, yes? And so we took a reading of what would happen tonight. Nania, would you remove the envelope from under the stool? You may wish to open it and pass out the handouts to people, because the only download we knew we would need would be the spectrum of fear.
You are so psychic.
We are just reading probabilities in your energy. Let's make sure everyone has a handout so they can follow along. Is there anyone who does not have a handout? All right. Nania?
Yes.
You have one as well?
Yes.
All right. Then, one at a time, from the bottom up, allow yourself, Nania, to please read them out loud one at a time.
From the bottom.
From the bottom up, because that's where it begins. It starts with self-awareness.
Basic self-awareness.
That lays the foundation. That allows you to understand yourself, to have a reflection of yourself, to create consciousness within you. And then?
A plus, so awareness plus survival instinct.
So once you become self-aware in physical reality, the body consciousness, all of this now, these first ones are in the body consciousness spectrum, sort of an automatic function that comes along with body consciousness in having an incarnation. And the first representation of this energy would be what you will experience as survival instinct. And then?
A plus survival awareness plus survival instinct plus L, which is learned and accepted parameters.
Yes, so the limitations that are necessary for you to experience a physical reality set up a certain kind of barrier, border, parameters for you to follow, keeps you in a certain format or a certain focus. And the more that you explore this with a minimal amount of survival instinct, you gain what is simply called experience in living in physical reality. Now, these are the automatic functions, but now it goes into what we will call the intentional or the rational levels of fear and how you use them. So next, above that line.
Okay, and it's interesting how they're additive. So you have...
They're all additive, yes.
You have automatic plus self-awareness.
Yes.
Or
the automatic self-awareness.
Survival instinct.
Plus survival instinct, plus the limitations that you learn.
Plus experience.
Experience. This all becomes cumulative. And one builds on the other to create the next level.
Is that the caution, alertness?
The idea now is caution. Now, this is the intentional, rational level. When you have used your survival instinct and your self-awareness and the parameters that you've learned about existing in physical reality, now the first level, and again, not to say that this is fear as you understand it or as you commonly use that term, but it is an expression, a very low vibrational level of it where you become simply cautious about things. So you don't necessarily just see a spinning blade and go running into it because you have learned the limitations of what happens in physical reality when you do that, or simply go running across the street and get hit by a car. You become simply naturally somewhat cautious so you can navigate physical reality in a way that is protective of your survival instinct. And then, above that,
should I go through all the additives or just...
No.
Just do the added one?
You already now understand that this is all cumulative. Each level adds to the next, to the next, to the next, to create the next level above it.
Oh, I see. So now when you add caution to
Yes.
that mix, you end up with wariness.
Now you start to pick up on the idea that sometimes in your culture you have called bad vibes, where you simply feel that
something may not be quite aligned here. You start being sensitive to the idea. You gain enough experience to become sensitive to the idea and be able to pick up on the idea that something may be out of alignment with your preferences in life, may not necessarily be to your benefit. And so you start becoming wary of certain things. Again, this is not necessarily automatically a negative. There is both a negative and a positive mix in this level of intentional and rational fear. But wariness can serve you, again, so that you can pay attention to the signs, or what you might call in your reality red flags, and know when somebody is telling you, or a situation is telling you, that you need to be cautious, you need to be wary, so that you can move into this with intention and your eyes open and alertness, and navigate your way through this in a beneficial way for yourself by applying positive definitions. And now, cumulatively, above wariness, we come to what you classically call typical fear. Yes?
So this is the one where once you add in wariness,
Yes.
you end up with fear, right?
Yes, but now you have the idea that this can also be the result of positive things, negative things, and it can be mitigated by more positive definitions. But this is where fear can also be protective in a positive way by keeping you away from things that would actually be damaging to you, detrimental to you. Or it can be negative based on fear-based negative definitions that are not necessarily to your benefit. This is still within the level of the intentional and rational levels and expressions of cumulative energies that create fear, because you can still do something about it with your consciousness intentionally. So you get to use fear, if you wish, in a positive way by making fear your friend, and knowing that fear in the positive sense, being defined that way, is now simply a messenger knocking on your door to tell you that you might have fear-based beliefs in your unconscious mind that you're unaware of, and it's helping put you in touch with that fact so that you can illuminate those things, find out what those definitions are in your unconscious mind, bring them to your conscious attention, and let them go if they're out of alignment with who you prefer to be, so that you can expand yourself in a positive way. And so on this level, this is the last level where you can use fear in a positive way by recognizing the negative definitions that have created the negative experience of fear within you. But now, above that, when you accumulate to the next level, you're actually crossing another threshold, and you're going into the irrational energies, where thought patterns become dissociative, where your energy becomes less, in a sense, controllable. You go into the idea, crossing that threshold, of paranoia. So now this is the first irrational idea. And of course, we understand the old joke on your planet, you're not being paranoid if somebody is actually after you. But this still is down in the level below that threshold, where you're actually making a rational recognition that you might actually be in physical harm or danger. When we're talking about the idea of crossing that line now into paranoia, we are talking about an irrational energy where now the negative beliefs that are now prevalent, wholly negative beliefs, are now taking over in a sense and allowing you to imagine things that are not necessarily true, blowing things up out of proportion and imagining things that are really not representative of anything going on outside you, but are more representative of the things going on inside you that you do not trust about yourselves. Panic now, being the next level that you accumulate, allows you to experience what you recognize as phobias, where you really have seemingly a completely uncontrollable paranoia about things in specific terms that you are now using as a symbol to represent the negative belief system. This goes into panic. And then, yes, when you add the panic to the mix, now you can go into terror. This starts really breaking down your thought process, any kind of rational experience at all. And when you cross that threshold, you then can go into the idea that terror can actually literally frighten you to death. Because the idea now is the survival instinct kicks in so strongly with terror that if you cannot find a rational way out of it, if you cannot bring in and mitigate
that experience with some positive definition, the survival instinct will tell you that there is no other way out, and therefore the only door would be, in a sense, to survive in spirit, to leave the physical reality. So these are the formulas, the cumulative formula of energy that is called the spectrum of fear. You follow?
Yes, I almost feel like we need to reiterate it a little bit. Now,
Go
we haven't
ahead.
gone to death, right? We haven't done that one yet.
Death. Well, that's death.
Oh, that's death. But that's survival of spirit, it says.
Survival of spirit is natural because there is no way the spirit can die. So death is death of the physical in order to survive, because the physical at that point does not find that there is any way for it to survive. It cannot find a way out. It cannot find a way to mitigate the terror. Therefore, if it doesn't find a way to mitigate the terror, it will die of fright. The physical consciousness will completely dissociate and will die of fright.
So, like people that are being tortured and stuff like that, and those terrible experiences, how do they stay alive? And
Well, again, you have to look at the spectrum and understand that they may be applying certain other perspectives and definitions into what they're experiencing, and they're not always necessarily terrified. They may, in fact, be defiant. Do you understand?
yes.
So they're looking for a way to find a positive belief system that can allow them to survive. Their survival instinct is helping them search for something that will give them the strength to survive. If they find it, then they will simply become defiant, not terrified. They will not be frightened to death.
So I'm just trying to grasp this whole thing because it's
Yes.
the first time I'm seeing it too. So the first level where you have automatic neutral body consciousness,
Yes.
that includes all the physical levels of fear? Is that the idea? Or is it the intentional and
No.
rational?
You will feel fear physically on the different levels, but we're just saying it starts with this neutral level that imbues you with a physical sensation that equates to or translates to the concept of survival instinct.
So similar to the idea of when a baby is born, they have a natural fear of falling. They have a fear of
Yes.
loud noises.
Survival instinct.
So that's where you're automatically programmed to be able to experience
Yes, you are
fear.
exploring with the survival instinct to determine the limitations, the